Hey everyone, so today we are going to look into animation like Microsoft logo when we have a lot of objects flying in, then they sort of rotate and they all merge into just kind of one object that represents the logo, and then it ends here. So I don't know how far we get today, but I just want to explain how this works, how quickly we can merge these things together. So let's get right into it. So let's open the new one, and we're gonna start by putting some primitive shapes. So I'm gonna put 1, 2, 3. Well, this one's the same. Let's aim for the same size. And then I included this twisted shape. So there's gonna be 3 shapes. We can reset them all into center, and so you can use this reset transform, and we can put them in a cloner. So Control Alt, if you highlight more objects in your scene and Control Alt, and you click on a cloner, it will put them all into the cloner. And we can put size to 1, 1, 1, just so they tightly packed. And we can put our rigid body on the cloner. So on the cloner, if you go to bullet tags and right click the cloner, you put a rigid body, and you will see one thing, that they basically explode because they are so tightly packed. So you're just gonna go into force and put follow position, follow rotation, and they stay together. But you want some initial velocity, just so they are actually getting thrown off a little bit at the start. So you go to dynamics and you checked custom initial velocity. So this is to on the x-axis, y-axis, z-axis. So let's say we do some initial velocity, and then we go to force again, and we have some drag here, angular damping, linear damping. But let's say this is fine for now. I'm just gonna move our camera a little bit closer just so we see what's happening, and we're gonna enter more primitives. So this is a grid, so 3 by 3 by 3. It's quite a lot. It's not bad. And now you see the dynamics change. So before you enter your final amount of primitives, like you're happy with this sort of cloud arrangement, then you need to go back to that tag and adjust the linear damping and angular damping. So angular is to damp the rotations. You see the rotation, it's not being really controlled, so you can follow rotation, increase it by 3, 5, and you see it will kind of just take it easy. And you can also increase the drag, so it's just like overall easiness. And now we're getting somewhere where I kind of like it. And we can change the seat as well on oh, at least I hope that's true. On the cloner, where we can do random. There's a lot of coins here. Oh yeah, here's the seat. So when changing seats, we can sort of click through these and kind of see what's the combination like. Here's a lot of coins. Here's like a lot of these twists. So something like this. That's a lot of twists. I don't know if I chose my objects wisely. But okay, let's say this is it. And Okay, maybe I'll swap it for some other object because I see so many coins stacking. It's just not good. Maybe this little mustache. So I can click on that mustache, reset it, and then we have that primitive shape here, which is this one. I'll keep it, and then we have the twist, and then we have this one. So I'm just gonna take this out, and we're gonna use these. I have a lot of mustaches there. Okay, so we have it like that. I'm gonna put 2x4 by 2. Maybe that's fine. So something like this, and now I want to create another cloner and put that first primitive. That's going to be our logo. It's the company logo. It's this primitive shape. So I can turn this one off for now and just focus on that one primitive. So this is, let's say this is our company logo and we animating for our company. So I'm just going to reset this to the center and take that cloner and put that inside the cloner. Now that cloner, we're going to keep in a grid mode, but we're going to change it one by one. So this is only one cloner and we keeping it in exact center. And this other cloner, we will put as a child of that cloner. And we're going to set it to object. And the object will be the primitive, that logo. So let's say we imagine we even name this logo, and then we'll set the cloner to that. So now you're not going to see anything because you have a cloner with logo and then cloner for explosion. And that is child. So now you just click on the cloner with logo, like the main parent, and bring in the linear, the plane object first. So you click the plane object. So you see that effector is being applied to that cloner. And you see it was lifted by 100 centimeters. So we don't want that. Only thing we want is to actually call this transform, just so we know what is happening. And we're going to go into the parameter tab and we change modify clone. And now you see something happen. It switched from this one to the other cloner. So this is the modify clone option, and we can use field to control how this is going to happen. So I can go from here, and as soon as I go here, this is exploding. So I can control this, and the way we're going to do it is we're going to go to linear field and animate the X. So let's say we're starting here with the logo. I'm going to click on the X-axis and then I move it to like 50 frames and then drag it over here so the explosion happens and click another keyframe. So now I just like have it like that and I have explosion happening. I have even the color coming from that color remap of the linear field. You know, you can change it to gradient, you can change it to anything you want really. But then we're gonna texture it differently. Now in this moment, we sort of wanna look at the animation and we wanna look in at it in reverse. So I wanna have additional control over what's happening there with that logo. So I want to make it a little bit bigger as soon as I'm approaching the logo. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on that cloner again and bringing another plane object. So again, it lifted up the position and Y. So we're just going to get rid of it and bring in scale and a uniform scale. And now we make it slightly bigger. But because this is the position, we don't want to make it bigger, we're just going to go into negative values. So we're going to start in like minus 0.5 and then use the field same as the before. So it's going to get controlled by that field. Now, because that field is actually in reverse, I'm just going to fix this to positive value 0.5, and it's going to get a little bigger and it expands. So this makes more sense. And we can even put on that field a little delay. So it's going to play even that into a little bit more. It's just going to kind of little wait for like expand, and then it explodes. Okay. And you see all these are a little bigger. It's fine as well. And we can control our camera movement and also the other explosion. So if I click on the other control, I can have it expanded, and you can do that by bringing a random object. So instead of plain object now, we're going to bring random, and I can see, go with these parameters crazy, but I need to keep playing it. So you see it expands like this right away. So we don't want that, but we want the explosion happen. So we still want to see this moment where it expands from one point. So it's happening around here. So from here, we can animate the strength of that random effector. So right now, 0 to 100. And it expands even further. Can go crazy. So they kind of explode and then they go even further. And when you have all this, you want to have a camera and think about it in reverse. So what I want to do is actually take this tag and cache it. So I'm going to bake object. And now I can just kind of slide through it. So I can see this coming together. That's amazing. So now that it's cached, you can start playing with the animation. Like you can rotate the logo first. So let's say like you're here. So we're going to kind of be at 0 here. But you can do 180 degrees here. And we're going to just kind of let it flip. So when it finishes, it just kind of does this little flip there. And you can go into the F curve mode. So just kind of highlighting, and you can see the curves. And I'm using the motion manager. I'm using the same curve always. So if I look at it backwards, so it's just kind of goes. Whoop. And this is exactly where we want to be. And maybe we can extend that rotation even further. Just so we know, like when it's coming back, it's already rotating and then it kind of settles down. So we have that, and it expands. And so when we are in this kind of expanded mode, we want to kind of fly through this. Shows like the Z depth, like the dimension, the depth is the word, where we kind of fly through them. So I'm just gonna go to all the way to -17. I always have my camera now where I set it up to like -600, and I use camera now to control the camera, just so my camera is always zeroed out. If I need it for something later. So we have here that logo. So I'm going to finish somewhere here. I'm going to look at in my project render, I'll set it to 16:9. And I'm going to look here. I'm going to put some material here. And so this is my logo. I want to be a little bit further than this. Just like that. So, okay, this is my ending screen. And then with this expansion, I want to kind of go away a little bit to kind of see it. So then when we're going to go to the logo, it's just going to bring it together like it's coming closer to us. But in here as well, we want to kind of fly through these. So now I have 3 keyframes, and I can fly through these. So they kind of, and I need to decide how it's going to look backwards. So I'm just going to go into those keyframes and switch to camera position Z. Actually take these, and now I see those 3 keyframes here, and I can really control the animation here. So what are we going to do? We are looking into how it looks in backwards. So here we are too far in. So if I move away, so I can back away like this. You see stuff merging together, and then it's just kind of whoop. So we can increase that jump. This is happening like easy, and then whoop. Maybe I don't want this abrupt, so I'm just gonna, yeah, something like this. You can do ping pong. You can actually set this to kind of go ping pong, so it will go backwards, so you'll kind of see it. And now if you want to play with the actual animation, you can always clear cache. So you can clear it, and then you can adjust it even more. So you say like, I want more explosion there. And you can play with that dynamic tag, and you can play with the force. You can like get rid of that dumping, and you switch back to simple. And you first make sure the explosion is exactly how you like it. Actually cycle. And follow position here, follow rotation. I kind of like this one. And then I can reverse this. Don't need a solution. Meh. Cute Bobby Chuck. So now when you reverse this and you like it, you kind of final bake it. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna bake this, bake all. And I'm just gonna look at it backwards. These are coming together. Whoop. And I'm just gonna change this rotation to be the other way, because I don't like this is coming like in different direction, and then it's switched to this rotation. So I'm just gonna have to fix a little rotation on this, and it's actually this rotation on the cloner. Rotates this way. So I'm just gonna delete this, and I'm gonna rotate it just so it finishes on 0. And I'm gonna rotate it in negative. I'm gonna move the camera movement a little bit further, just so I don't want that little jump in the end. I want it here. Yeah. And that rotation, I'm gonna give it some easing. And we can play a little more with the kind of scale of this final object, and can go even further. When you have like this is actually a scale of that, and it's using the same linear field. So when you see this final stage, we can go into that and play with how big it is. Okay, so let's move on to texturing this and then rendering it, and just so we can reverse it in After Effects. So now we at the texturing stage, so we're gonna turn on the IPR and bring in backdrop. I'll just drag it down and make this bigger. So I'm just gonna scale it, drag it even more down just so I didn't see that. And I love to use backdrop because it already gives me that bottom. So for the reflection, it's great because we get some reflective surfaces. I'm going to bring in area light, and I'm going to switch to my main cam. So I see what's happening. I'm going to rotate that area light. So I'm just going to click on that area light and rotate it 90 degrees and move it back quite a lot and make it quite large. Bring it a little bit up and then angle it a little bit down just so we get like that top. And I'm gonna reduce the exposure so we get this kind of nice light, and just increase the spread and reduce even more the exposure. So I'll take this area light and rotate it like that, and then bring it more front. And you see I'm in the world axis, so I'm going to switch to that object axis, and I'm going to push it a little bit back. I'm just going to eradicate these shadows a little bit more and make it even more narrow. So just going to reduce this and get something like this. Now I'm going to look into adding one more area light and making its shape disk and pushing it towards the wall, and then pushing the wall a little bit back. So you see something like this. Now we need to go through that cycle of the camera. So we see this is the logo. We're going to fly through these things. So I'm just going to reduce not the spread, but the actual exposure on that light. And then so if I go backwards, you see I have this kind of nice focus area around that center, thanks to this rounded area light. And you just go like this, and it also creates nice I'm just going to look into these coordinates. Now, when texturing these, we have 3 objects to texture plus our final logo. So we can start with the logo. We can actually go here and, bring in material, and we already done that. So I'm just going to double click this one and open the node editor, and we're going to bring in ramp and plug it into color. Then we'll switch to some nice color palette. So I've been using lately these purple ones. I'm going to bring in the dark one. And then we can increase the noise amount. Give him the bright one. So something like this. We can look into some other textures. So we can look at textures, some technical textures. So we can take these diamonds or dots basic, and I can bring in bump. Just plug it into bump. Give it some nice dot pattern, increase to like 6 by 6. So we have something like this. I can bring in more colors in here. Just some kind of hues of blue. Increase this even further. So 12 by 12. Again, a nice detailed pattern. So we have this. We can increase the metalness if we want. Make it kind of shiny. And do actually a transmission and make it glassy, which means we need to plug that ramp into the transmission color, and we can run it through color composite. I can average it with the white color. So we're just gonna bring the white color, average this, and this will give us sort of fly through. Now with that bump, I'm just gonna reduce this to 0.2. So not so obvious, or 0.02. It's way too small. Just so we have a little pattern there, but it's not too crazy. Then we have a spotlight. And we just kind of position like this and making quite a lot. Just having it directly onto that glass object. You can take all the lights, bring it into lighting. I'm gonna reduce that metalness. I forgot about that, so that's why the glass wasn't coming through properly. And we can try even different bump textures. So if I like try something like this and do 26 by 26. With these sort of patterns here. We can just get rid of it. Keep deleting spotlight instead of double clicking into this. Bring in code, just so it has some reflection there. And we can do reflection roughness. And I'm gonna bring in some maybe frost. Let's see what it does. And then go into absolute, so absolute float, and plug in into our remap scale. and then set it to like 0.2. Go even lesser values. We can put it in RAM. Reduce the wide, just so it's not so obvious. And then we can increase this one, just so the difference between black and white is not so crazy. And then reduce that spotlight, obviously, because that's too harsh. So we have some sort of glassy material like this. I'd rather save this. I'm gonna fix that rotation later. But okay, so this is the glass we have, and now we have these objects. But obviously, we have 3 objects, and they've been cloned into multiple. So we're gonna try to create materials that can handle multiple colors. So we have these mustaches, and we can use jitter. So I'm gonna bring in jitter node, and plug it into color, and then remap it with ramp. I can bring in some whole color palette, can drag all of these, drag them onto there. And now I can switch all these to step. So they either maintain this color, I can make it more narrow, and then push it where I get more of these colors. So I get range from here to here. I can highlight again all of these, make it even more narrow. So now I get all these colors represented. And I can use jitter to kind of play with that variation. And with saturation like this. So let's say I have 3 different colors, and or 4, just using one material. And then same we can do for the reflections. So we can do scratches into roughness, making it more like this. We can solo, always look at it, what it does, and then use jitter to kind of output that float into remap offset, just so everyone gets different scratches. We just need to go into the actual float value and increase it to like 1000, and now all of them get different scratches. We can make this material to be actually not just the color, but we can go into subsurface color, turn off the weight on this one, and subsurface weight on. This way we get like a subsurface materials. And if you increase the scales, they will react to light more. The light will go through that material, and with scale we can control how much it penetrates that material. We can go quite a lot. And we can use even that bump. So if I'm going to bring in bump map and bringing those maybe dot patterns, or like a diamonds. And then making it like 10 by 10. Like a close up. You see we get these like a nice patterns of diamonds in these materials. Spotlight is still quite harsh, so we can go easy on that. This is really nice. And we can do the same for the other materials. So I'm just going to create another, apply to our other primitive shape. So these are going to be these rings with cross. I'm going to put in color. Use just this one. And put it through the jitter. So we're going to treat it differently. And then we output this into, we're going to create variation through that jitter. We're going to vary a little bit. I'm just going to reduce the saturation there. Now we can take that dot gradient and bring it into roughness. And have a look how it applies. So we can go 15 by 15. I'll create these kind of maps. If I turn it off again, it's not really visible. But we can combine it with other materials. So I'm just going to bring in standard material and then use material layer to combine these. And have that texture instead drive that with mask. So I'm just going to drag in this texture. So now I'm essentially switching those two materials with this texture. And now if I plug it into surface, you see I'm just going to apply this throughout that. So this is quite good. So this one actually could be a glass. So transmission on. And we can have these colorfuls overlays that are always different on each object. So I'm just going to instead switch that jitter. And then we have glassy objects, but with different sort of overlays. And then if we use jitter to drive that map, so we're gonna float into remap offset and remap scale and remap rotate. And we're gonna look at it. We actually need to look at the texture itself and then drive that float. So now it's zeroed out. So we're just gonna go all the way to 1000. And now you have all these different patterns out of, you know, the simple. So if we go 500 to 1000, we get like something like this. Go to 2000, and then I can switch in between different patterns. Maybe go 500. I'm going to change the float seed. Remove it maybe from rotate. And remove it from scale. Switch to 1000. Try plug it back to scale as well. So it's just going to do to 25. So it has like different variations. You can do 50, 20. So once you're happy with it, you can switch it off and you can see what it does. So I can use this glassy effect. And then final, we're going to use some metal on this one. So I'm just going to bring in material, plug it onto twisted primitive. So go and look somewhere. We can call in jitter. Bring it into color. Turn on the metalness. And then plug in color. Make it these dark blue, or these light. And then we also look at it. So maybe I'm not going to use the actual metal. We can remap it with ramp. You can put it in the color layer. So that gives us the black color, and we can use ramp to drive the mask. So if the color goes here, we can drive this mask. So half it's gonna get black and then the white. And we can switch in between different color, and I can copy this jitter and drive that into actual color of the layer 1 and change this color to be something different. And now if we could play with this noise amount as well, we can create some nice blending situations. We can solo this ramp. So we can have this mask. And then we can maybe make it even more detailed. And we can bring in another ramp. Plug it into mask of the layer 2. And turn on the layer 2. And then we can kind of, let's say, control that this is going to be color. So one of them jitters. But the rest is going to be this detailed pattern. So if I can switch off the solo now, we get like this a nice effect. So we can further control using this ramp and kind of changing colors on these. I think I feel I want to bring some blues. And then maybe look into the jitters here. And change that ramp, maybe get rid of that. And look into the glass and bring the colors a little bit more together. We can just play with the saturations. And so some of them are like pure glass, some of them are just this regular. And come back to this one and finish the look. We only play with the color here, and we can bring in some texture and like smudges. Plug it into roughness. We can have a look what it does. Can do ramp. And control the contrast. Can switch it. If I switch it off, can I have these maps? So I'm gonna find some color that I like a bit more. kind of flying through these, coming back together. And so now I'm kind of happy with this. Materially, I think it's fine. And we could play for hours. I just wanted to show you a couple of jitter things. And now let's fix that final rotation. And I think that position of the camera as well needs to happen much later. Go further back. So that final, it just kind of needs to go back. So it's just gonna stay here. Go closer here. Fly through. And now we need to fix that rotation. So that rotation is coming from the cloner logo. To be almost finished. It goes here. Still some rotation needs to happen. Like this. And delete some of those Z's. Look, I can go further back here. And then close. So I'm just kind of flying through. And then zooms in. With that rotation, I can actually go rotate it even more. The positive direction. This goes back. This feels much more solid. Feels like they all, rub together into that logo, and we ended up there. So if I play this now in a ping pong mode, you can play at the back. We can even reduce it so it starts around here. So let's say we need only 100 frames. It allows you to 200 frames. Highlight all these. Make this bigger. 150. They all come together. Rotate. Go into that rotation. Do it in a positive fashion. So when it goes back, rotates with that position of the camera. So sometimes when I go too crazy and I just get lost in the camera movement and stuff, I just delete it and start from scratch, because you want to get this right. You don't want to spend that render time. So actually in here, I want to move here. Then when I go back, I want to move and see the whole crowd coming together. So we can go here. And then when it starts rotating, I can copy that keyframe and then go closer as this goes. Kind of finish it here. You can see also some reflections on the background, so we could create something of a material for the background, increase the roughness, and then have that spotlight exclude the backdrop, just so we don't see the shadows there. We can make it slightly brighter. And maybe slightly warmer. Into the orange one. bring more color into that subsurface. Material. And then maybe change that final material to something. There's no glass because it's just kind of weird when it ends in the transparent object, but it's not visible there. So I'm gonna switch it back to normal color. Get rid of the, or we can just have it as a subsurface color. And instead of the yellow, I'm gonna do some blue. I think that works. Just gonna look at it. And we can still adjust that ramp a little bit. And instead of that blue, they bring some of the colors from the others. So maybe this one, just so it contains all the colors that are happening here. And then when it's pulled together, you can see kind of combination of these. That's great. Okay. And then we can have that scale actually, instead of using that field, this one, we can have different scale. So I can bring in another linear field. And having it as a child of the first one. So is they getting animated? We can have that one moved. So it's kind of large. And when it's coming back, they're coming back together. So there's slight offset in these. And then that rotation logo. We still want to happen a little bit of that rotation. So it feels like it's coming together. I'll kind of wrap them all together. Let's get turn off the IPR, see the speed. Actually, I still want to show you one thing. Like when we have the spotlight, maybe we can apply some texture. Like if I go to animated gobos, these animated classic moody palms, you can even, when you have like multiple shapes like this, it's nice that some of them are like more lit than the others. So create additional texture by like providing the light like that could be quite beneficial. Now for that area light at the back, we can change the color and temperature to slightly warmer, not too much, because already the backdrop. We can actually go into my grid materials. I can set it to grid material 7. And I can reduce that area light. And make sure that background, it's for example like this, just for funsies. And increase that side. Backdrop, like I think this texture can be just 6. So just normal like sort of reflections. It doesn't affect the actual texture pattern here. It's just this with the surface of it. You can bring a dome light as well. Just to get over more light in the scene, just kind of lift that. Push that spotlight a little bit. I don't know if I like this work mode more.